God, Shalom Akim. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rawchaa, Qadash. Double honors to the elder apostles, great Millstone, who teach you real well, and Shalom to the sincere Akim, spreading truth with sincerity. Shalom. In this lesson, I want to move a little bit through the spirit. You know, I have one verse prepared, which is Matthew chapter 22, verse 32, which reads, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. The Most High is not the God of the dead, but of the living. So what I want to do with this lesson, I want to, basically, go into that the Most High is only dealing with the nation of Israel, because as it says in Matthew chapter 22, verse 32, it says, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And we know that the name of Jacob, it was being changed to Israel in the book of Genesis, which is in Genesis chapter 32, verse 28. Which reads, this is the instance where Jacob, he wrestled with the angel. This is basically what happened after. So starting off at verse 27, this is what the angel said, and he said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with the Most High, and with men, and hast prevailed. And if I look up the word, the name Jacob, in the well, let me use the two-letter Bible, because if I look up the word, well, the name Jacob, this is Genesis chapter 25, verse 26. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was threescore years old when she bare him. So, that's the verse that I'm gonna use to get to the word Jacob, which in the Hebrew is Yahawah, which means heel holder or supplanter. Because that's basically what happened when when Jacob he supplanted Esau for his birthright. And the word heel holder is also very symbolic for the fact that when they were born, Jacob held the heel of Esau, which basically also resembles pulling down of the nation of Esau, because right now they're rulership and they're going down. And the next one in rulership is going to be the Israelites. But the word the name Yahawah is Jacob, heel holder or supplanter, but it also says son of Isaac, grandson of Abraham, and father of the 12 patriarchs of the tribes of Israel. So when it says in Matthew chapter 22, verse 32, if I'm correct, out of my mind. Yeah, when it says, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. The Most High is not the God of the dead, but of the living. It refers that the Most High, he's basically the power of the nation of Israel. Because as we could read in Genesis chapter 32, verse 28, we could read that the name of Jacob was changed to Israel, who was the forefather of the, it's like it was the father of the 12 patriarchs, of the nation of Israel. And who are those people in this day and age? Well, in order to get a better understanding, who those people are this day and age. And I want to first go to the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 16. The Spirit itself bears witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. So, in order to get a better understanding, what it actually is referring to, I want to go to the book of John. So what does it mean that the Spirit is bearing witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High? So I want to go to John, the 6th chapter, and verse 63, where it reads, "It is the Spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life." So the words that are being spoken, refer to the scriptures. So these scriptures bear witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. So we need to take a deeper look into the scriptures, into the Holy Bible, to basically find out who those people are that are the Israelites. And in order to do that, I want to go to the book of Deuteronomy for the first clue. Because it says in Deuteronomy chapter 28, starting off at verse 1, "And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord Yahawah thy power, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord Yahawah thy power will set thee on high above all nations on the earth." Now, in this book is written for and by Israelites. So it says that, if we would listen to the words of Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, that we will basically be on top of other nations. We will be in a rulership position. And all the blessings that we can read from verse 1 all the way to verse 14 will be bestowed upon us. We will be basically the ruling class elite, But this is what verse 15 says. "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord Yahawah thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee." And this is something that happened unto our nation. We did not listen to the words of Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, and therefore all the curses that are written in Leviticus chapter 26, but also in Deuteronomy chapter 28, starting off at verse 16 all the way to verse 68, all these all these curses came upon us, as a nation. And one of the curses that I want to read is verse 68, which is is going to be a clue to find out who the Israelites actually are. So it says, verse 68, "And the Lord Yahawah shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondman and bondwoman, and no man shall buy you." So it says in verse 68, "And the Lord Yahawah shall bring thee into Egypt again." In the book of Exodus, we could read that, we were in Egypt and we were serving slavery. So when it says that the Most High shall bring us into Egypt again, it means that he is basically going to put us yet again into slavery. But if we read on, it says, "With ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again," which is referring to that we would not see the land of Israel again. "And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you." So the Most High said he would bring us into slavery again with ships. And this happened unto the nation of Israel, who are, to basically already spill the beans, who are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And in 1619, the so-called Negroes, the Jews, the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, they were sold into slavery, in all the way from West Africa to the Americas. But what happened when Columbus, sailed to the Americas? He also took slaves over there and brought them back to Europe. You so Deuteronomy chapter 28, is basically the depiction of the curses that came upon us as a nation, which are being bestowed upon the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And those people, they basically, are the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. Another curse that came upon us can be written in verse 64. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 64. And the Lord Yahawah shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. So, we as a nation, we also have been scattered among all these heathen nations. And what happens, when, as a man, you're surrounded by females, even from the other nations. You're going to lay down with them, and you're going to make children with them. Because back in the days, all the way back, all the tribes were dark-skinned. In this day and age, this is not the case anymore. Now we look like all the other nations as well. So as we can read in the book of Genesis, chapter 6, and I'm gonna use the binder because I need to go back to Matthew chapter 22 again later on. So it says in the book of Genesis, chapter 6, verse 1, this is going into what I was talking about concerning that what happens when, Israelite men, are, among, females of other nations. So it says in Genesis chapter 6, verse 1, and it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them. So verse 1, the men referred to the men of the heathen nations. When they began to multiply on the face of the earth, daughters were born unto them. Verse 2, that the sons of the Most High saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. So the sons of the Most High, they saw the daughters of the heathen nations, and they were good looking, so they took them wives to lay down with them and made children with them. And to prove the point that the sons of the Most High refer to the Israelites, in this day and age, because in the book of Genesis, it refers to basically to the chosen lineage of Adam, the Adamites, who were a nation as well. But in this day and age, it refers to, the Israelites, the chosen nation of Yahawashi and Yahawashi. So it says in the book of Exodus, chapter 4, verse 22, and thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, thus said the Lord Yahawah, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. So when it says in Genesis chapter 6, verse 2, that the sons of the Most High saw the daughters of men, in this day and age, it refers to the Israelite man. When we as a nation were scattered among the heathen nations, we saw the heathen women as well. We saw that they were beautiful. We laid down with them, and we made children with them. So, before I want to go on, I want to prove the point that there's nothing new under the sun. So basically, what happened in the time of Adam also happens in this day and age. And to prove that point, I want to go to the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verse 9. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. And there's no new thing under the sun. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? It hath been already of old time, which was before us. So, it's basically the point that history repeats itself. So what happened in the time of the Adamites, the chosen people of the Most High back then, also happens to us basically, as the Israelites. And when we were scattered among the heathen nations, we took wives of the heathens, we laid down with them, which eventually caused, our people to also look like the heathen nations. But as long as the father's seed line goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because like it said in Matthew chapter 22, verse 32, I'm going to read it again. The Most High is not like the Most High is the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac. Let me just read it. So this is Matthew chapter 22, verse 32. I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. The Most High is not the God of the dead, but of the living. So the Most High is the power of those people, which are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, but also those that were scattered among the heathen nations, who might look like the heathen nations, but whose lineage does go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So as long as their father's lineage goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, it don't matter what they look like, they're part of the nation of Israel. And to prove that point, I want to go to Numbers, the first chapter, and the 18th verse, which reads, And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of their names, from 20 years old and upward by their pool. So it says that they declared their pedigrees, which basically is their family tree, after their families by the house of their fathers, according to their father's lineage, not to their mother's lineage, because the woman, they they don't produce seed. They bring forth children, but they don't produce seed because the man, he's the one that decides whether it's a man child or basically a woman child, because he has both the X and the Y chromosome to give away, but the female, she only has the X chromosomes, So to also prove further point that the so-called Negro, Latinos, Native Americans are the Israelites. I want to go to the book of Second Esdras, because during the time, let me just read it. This is Second Esdras, chapter 13, verse 40. Because this is talking about that. Because if you look at the Americas, before the conquistadors and the Europeans basically came over to the Americas, the land was already inhabited. And the book of Second Esdras explains who those people were, because those people were were also were people from the nation of Israel. So it says in Second Esdras chapter 13, verse 40, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanassar the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. And the other land, is in scripture being called Arshareth, which refers to America. So when I want to go to the book of Second Kings, basically talk about what happened. This is book of Second Kings, chapter 17. Let me start with verse. Because during that time, the nations, the nation of Israel, the northern and the southern tribe, they did not walk after the commandments of Yahawah and Yahawashi. So, let me start with verse 18. Therefore, the Lord Yahawah was very angry with Israel and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Judah only. Also, Judah kept not the commandments of the Lord Yahawah their power, but walked in the statutes of Israel which they made. And the Lord Yahawah rejected all the seed of Israel and afflicted them, and delivered them into the hand of spoilers until he cast them out of his sight. Verse 21. For he rent Israel from the house of David, and they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat king, and Jeroboam drave Israel from following the Lord Yahawah and made them sin a great sin. So Israel refers to the northern tribe, and Judah refers to the southern tribe. Verse 22. For the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam, which he did, they departed not from them, until the Lord Yahawah removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day. So that's basically lining up with what is being said in 2 Ezra chapter 13, which reads in verse 40, those are the 10 tribes, which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Shalmaneser the king of Assyria led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. So like the other land, is not referring to Arsareth in this verse, but eventually, they went over to the Americas, because it says in verse 41, but they took this counsel amongst themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statutes which are never kept in their own land, and they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow passage of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth. Arsareth, refers to America because it means another land. During the time of I remember because during the time of King Solomon, they already, went basically to and fro to the Americas to gather goods. So the country was already known, but mankind didn't really dwell there. So it says in 1 Kings chapter 10 verse 22, for the king had at sea a navy of Tarshish with the navy of Hiram. Once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory and apes and peacocks. So they went there to basically, gather riches, treasures, very precious things. Verse 23, so King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth for riches and for wisdom. So when they went there, they basically gathered, as it says, gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks. But the point I'm trying to make is, the First Kings chapter 10 verse 22, it says it's once in 3 years. They came in bringing those things, because it took them a year and a half, to go over there, a year and a half to go back. So when it says in 2 Estrus chapter 13 verse 45, for through that country there was a great way to go, namely for a year and a half, in the same regions called Arsareth, which is in the Hebrew Achar Arataza, which means another land. But basically show the point that the Americas were already known during that time, but it was not inhabited yet, which is what the Israelites basically did when they decided to go into a further country, that they might there keep their law, statutes, and commandments. And to prove the point, concerning one of the tribes, which is the tribe of Gad, which are the so-called Native Americans. I want to bring out a point because they had, I say it, they had, they have a border of blue. Well, not a border of blue, but they have the fringes on their clothes, and this is what the Most High said in the book of Numbers. This is Numbers chapter 15, verse 38. Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout the generations, and that they put upon the fringes of the borders a ribbon of blue. Even though you might see the clothing of the Native Americans, they might not have the ribbon of blue, but they do have the fringes. What did it say in Romans, chapter 8, verse 16? It said, the Spirit itself bears witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. When we came to the conclusion that when it said in John chapter 6, verse 63, that these words are spirit. Let me just read it. John chapter 6, verse 63, it is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. So the words, which are the scriptures, they are spirit. So through reading the scriptures, we come to the conclusion that the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, are in fact, the Israelites. We also come to the conclusion that the curses were bestowed upon us, which one of the curses is that we will be scattered among all the heathen nations, which also makes us to look like the heathen nations as well. So you might have Israelites that look like, Edomites, so-called white people, Ammonites, so-called Japanese people, Moabites, so-called Chinese people. What else do we have? Hamites, so-called actual Africans, Kushites, Ethiopians, Eritrea, people like that. Arabs, people could look like Arabs. So we as a nation, we've been scattered among all the heathen nations. So that was one of the tribes that I wanted to bring forth to show that they actually belong to the nation of Israel. But another, basically another prophecy concerning the Gadites is written in Genesis chapter 49, if I'm correct. Yes, this is Genesis chapter 49, verse 19. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. And if you look at, the amount, of people that the Native Americans actually used to have back in the days before the settlers came, before those devils came and slaughtered their people, was in the, millions. Some people might say 12 million, others may say 80 million, 60 million, but, it can be any number between that, because Esau be lying about, the actual numbers, because they want to make it seem like it's not a big deal. They want to make it compared to, the time of, the Second World War, with those people that, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to name it, because then this video is going to be flagged and, most likely deleted. But you know what I'm basically coming towards. But once the Europeans came, the huge amount of people, turned into a very small number. Maybe only 1 million. Because the numbers that we are being presented with also, vary. you know. But it says, Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Because when these, how do you say it? These, let me see if I can find a name. The marshals, let me see. Bear with me, Babakasha. Let me quickly look it up. What do we care about these marshals and how you say it? You know what I mean, you know. But you know, the point is, you know, the amount of Gadites, Native Americans. You know, Gad is a troop. You know, a troop should overcome him, but at the end he should overcome. You know, so Gad, the word Gad itself, is God means also a troop. You know, which a troop is basically a very big number. You know, which they were overcome by a troop as well when those Europeans came over and slaughtered them. You know, I want to go back to Matthew chapter 22, verse 31, 32. But I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. The Most High is not the God of the dead, but of the living. So I know I think I made my point very clear. That you know the Israelites are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, but also those who were scattered among the heathen nations, who might look like the heathen nations, but this lineage does go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You know, so in this day and age, you know, you can look like any other nation upon the earth as well. You know, and still be an Israelite according to your father's seed line. You know, and this goes all the way back. You know that the Most High is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This goes all the way back to the book of Genesis, and I want to start off in. I'm gonna start off in verse 17. Fine, in chapter 17. So this is Genesis chapter 17, verse 1. And when Abram was 19 years old, 90 years old and 9, the Lord Yahawah appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty power. Walk before me and be thou perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thee exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face. The Most High talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Neither shall the name be any more be called Abram, but the name shall be Abraham. For a father of many nations have I made thee. Now, which is what the name Abraham actually means. Because if you look up his name, Genesis chapter 17, if you first look up Abram, the name Abram, come on. one's going to be quicker, I think. No. And Abaram means exalted father, which was the original name of Abraham. But because the Most High made a covenant and told him, like, I'm going to make you, I'm going to multiply it exceedingly, which means he's going to be, the father, of a lot of people, So the name Abraham is Abaraham, which means father of a multitude, chief of multitude, friend of the Most High, and founder of a Hebrew nation via the Most High's elective covenant, exactly, which are the Hebrew Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, but also those scattered among the heathen nations who might look like the heathen nations, but go back to Abraham asking Jacob according to their father's seed line. So back in Genesis chapter 17, verse 6, and I will make thee exceedingly fruitful, and will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee, and thy seed after thee in their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be a power unto thee, and to thy seed after thee. And I will give unto thee, and to thy seed after thee, the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their power. Verse 9, and the Most High said unto Abraham, Thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore, with thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. And eventually we know that the Most High, he basically, begat Ishmael, he begat Isaac, and he begat a couple of children with Keturah. So who is he actually, talking about concerning the covenant that he's going to keep? We're going to find that out. Verse 10, this is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you, and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised. Which is basically the blood covenant that we made with Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Verse 11, and ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant between me and you. Verse 12, and he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generations, he that is born in the house or bought with money of a stranger, which is not of thy seed. So the 8-day circumcision, is there's a reason that the Most High told Abraham that it's very important to circumcise your child on the 8th day, because if you look up why 8 days circumcision, it says it is of a significant medical importance that male circumcision be carried out on the 8th day after the birth, since the level of vitamin K is highest on this day, and vitamin K plays a pivotal role in the regulation and control of the important clotting factors in the coagulation pathway that helps in stopping bleeding. So even science supports the things that are written in the scriptures, which only basically um, um, make the scriptures more and more how you say it, for those people that need to have physical evidence or proof, or things like this. They show you that the Most High he did things with a reason, and science is backing those things up. Things are also becoming more clear concerning why eating pork and shrimp is just not good for you. Why the Most High told us not to eat those things, but to keep ourselves from those things and only eat the clean foods. Science is backing those things up as well. Verse 13. He that is born in the house, and he that is bought with the money, must needs be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. So, because Abraham already had, he already had Ishmael, which Ishmael is Yah Shemai Allah in the Hebrew, which means he has heard of the power, which can also be, basically traced back to this day and age, because what do they do when they, with their religion, with their denomination? They think that they are worshiping, basically the God of Abraham, because it says Yashemai Allah, which means he has heard the power. The word Allah means power, and they are basically worshiping Allah, which they've heard the power, but they actually don't, because they're not serving the real living power, which is Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi. But I digress. So I want to go to verse 15. Genesis chapter 17, verse 15. And the Most High said unto Abraham, as for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be. And I will bless her, and give thee a son of her, also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. So when it spoke about, verse 6, where it reads, and I will make thee exceeding fruitful, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. This refers to children that he will beget with Sarah, which are the Israelites. Verse 17, and Abraham fell upon his face and laughed, and said in his heart, shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old, and shall Sarah that is 19 years old bear? And Abraham said unto the Most High, oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. And the Most High said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And we know that, in the instance of Genesis chapter 25 and 27, even though Esau was first born, eventually Jacob received the first blessing, which is basically unto whom the promise, is being bestowed upon as well. So basically, unto whom the promise is, as well, because Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So that's basically what I meant. So it goes down from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Which Jacob, as we found out, is the patriarch of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. So-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, but also those scattered among the heathen nations who might look like the heathen nations, but actually go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob according to the father's seed line. So back in Genesis chapter 17, verse 20, and as for Ishmael, I've heard thee. Behold, I've blessed him and will make him fruitful, and I will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. So even though Ishmael was the firstborn of Abraham, the Most High is not dealing with Ishmael, nor with the other children that he begat with Keturah. Because it says in Genesis chapter 22, which I quickly grab. It says, Genesis chapter 22, verse 1, and it came to pass after these things that the Most High did tempt Abraham, and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, behold, here I am. And he said, take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of. So here the Most High is saying, that he's actually only dealing with Isaac, because he says, take now thine son, thine only son Isaac. So the Most High is not regarding Ishmael nor the other children that he begat, that Abraham begat with Keturah. And that's also what we can read when we go back to Genesis chapter 17, verse 21. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at this set time in the next year. So the Most High is only dealing with Isaac concerning those children that were begotten of Abraham. But the Most High did say, as we can read in verse 20, that the Most High is going to bless Ishmael. And if you look in this day and age to Ishmael, so-called Arabs, they are a very rich nation. Those people are blessed. They have a lot of children, a lot of money. So those people are blessed. They have received their consolation. So what I want to do now is I want to go to I'm gonna already put these verses. I'm gonna keep this on deck, and so I want to go to Deuteronomy chapter 7, and well, let me just go straight to the point. Verse 6. This is what was being spoken unto our nation. So Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord Yahawah thy power. The Lord Yahawah thy power hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So the Most High has chosen the nation of Israel, the people of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to be a special people unto himself. He has chosen us and given us his laws, statutes, and commandments to keep. Because the word holy, let me just look that up. Right. It's Qadash, which the word Qadash, without in a biblical usage, sacred, holy, holy one, saint, set apart. And how are we set apart from all these other nations? By the law, statutes, and commandments that were given unto us. Because if we go to the book of Psalms, chapter 140, if I remember correctly, 47. He showed his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation, and as for his judgments, they have not known him. Praise ye the Lord Yahawah. So the Most High has given us the law, statutes, and commandments, to keep, which is concerning this Bible. So this Bible is written by Hebrew Israelites for Hebrew Israelites. And the Most High is not dealing with any other nation. And I want to quickly grab another precept. Let me just quickly grab it with the phone because it's just a quick one. In 2nd Estrus chapter 3, verse 36, thou shalt find that Israel by name hath kept thy precepts, but not the heathen. And then precept, look up the word precept, it basically means a commandment, but not the heathen, because these heathens, these other nations, especially these so-called white people, they claim to be the people of the Bible. They claim to be the people of the Bible, but in fact, they don't keep the law, statute, commandments of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Because what does it also say in Psalms, the 50th chapter? This is Psalms chapter 50, verse 16. But unto the wicked the Most High saith, what hast thou to do to the clamorous statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth? Seeing thou hidest instruction and castest my words behind thee. So the Most High says this unto the wicked, which the wicked, with the correct understanding of the scriptures, is talking about Esau, Edom, the so-called white men upon the earth. They claim to be the people of the Bible, but they don't keep the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi, because the Most High is only dealing with the nation of Israel. He has given them of their laws, statutes, and of His commandments. So the Most High has chosen us, and set us apart from these heathens, because He's only dealing with us. And even though all these other people, might be, also of Adam, and also, the Most High is not dealing with them. Which is what we can find in the book of 2nd Estrus, chapter 6, verse 54. And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord of all thy creatures, of him come we all, and the people also whom thou hast chosen. So every person upon this earth, is a descendant of Adam. But it says, and the people also whom thou hast chosen, which refers to the nation of Israel. And all this have I spoken before thee, O Lord Yahawah, because thou madest the word for our sakes. The world is made for our sakes. All these heathen nations are supposed to be our servants. But because we did not hearken to the words of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi, all the curses came upon us. Which is all part of the story of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Verse 56. As for the other people which also come of Adam, thou hast said that they are nothing, but be like unto spittle, and as liken the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel. So, all the other people, all the other nations also come of Adam. But the Most High said about those people, those heathen nations, that they can be compared to spit, and which basically, we don't care about spit. Or he compares him to a little drop that falleth from a vessel of water, from a bucket of water. You don't care about if it's just one drop, falls from that bucket. So that's what the Most High thinks of all these heathen nations. Because the Most High is only dealing with us. Because He's only dealing with us, He's also punishing us for our iniquities. Like a father chastening his son. You don't care about the children of other people. You don't really care about them. And that's also what's being said in the book of Amos. This is Amos chapter 3, verse 1. Hear this word that the Lord Yahawah has spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which are brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. So because the Most High is only dealing with us, He's dealing with us as His Son. He's beating us. He's punishing us, for the iniquities that we have committed in the past. So that's why we as a nation, we went into slavery. That's why all the curses came upon us. We served other gods, which the Most High commanded us not to do. Which is something that we can read in the book of Exodus. Exodus chapter 20, which is a very basic scripture. Very, very, it's a basic scripture. It says, Exodus chapter 20, verse 1, And the Most High spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord Yahawah thy power, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. It's very clear. We're not supposed to have any other gods but Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi. But it says in the book of Baruch, chapter 4, verse 6, You were sold to the nations, not for your destruction, but because you moved the Most High to wrath. You were delivered unto your enemies, for you provoked him that made you by sacrificing unto devils and not to the Most High. That's why why we were basically put in the predicament that we're in right now. Still being in slavery. Right now we're on slavery under the so-called white man, Esau Edom. Who is he being called in the scriptures? But it won't take long. For the Most High to turn things aside. Turn things upside down. Because according to the scriptures, we can see that the times that we're in, when it's almost time for our nation, to be in rulership. Because we know that Esau Edom, the so-called white man, is ruling. And the next ones in rulership are going to be the Israelites. According to 2nd Esdras, chapter 6, verse 9, For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Let me start with verse 7. And answered I and said, What shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first, and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, From Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So Ezra asked the Most High, when are we going to be the next one in rulership? When's going to be the end of the first? The first time period, the first eon, the first rulerships. And the beginning of it that followeth. So he says, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau, because Jacob, as we also could found out, means heel holder. He held the heel of Esau, and that's representing how he's going to be taken down. Verse 9, for Esau is the end of the world, the end of the time period, because the word world means eon over here. The next world is going to be the world of the Israelites. It's going to be an everlasting world. And Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So the next ones in rulership are going to be the Israelites. And what the Most High is doing now, he's waking up our people, and especially he's waking up the elect, those people that the Most High is basically waking up to this fact that they're Israelites, so-called Negro, Latinos, Native Americans, but also those scattered among the heathen nations who might look like heathen nations. But those lineage does actually go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He's waking our people up. He's waking the prophets up, to proclaim his words, and that's why I want to finish it off, in Baruch chapter 2, verse 30. For I knew that they would not hear me, because the stiff-necked people, but in the land of their captivities they shall remember themselves. Right now we're still in captivity, but the Most High is waking our people up to the fact that they're Israelites, and shall know that I am the Lord Yahawah, their power. We shall wake up as Israelites, and we shall realize that it's not Jehovah, Yahweh, Allah, Buddha, or anything else that is our power. Because as it says in Isaiah the 1st chapter, Isaiah chapter 1 verse 3, the ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib, but Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider. Our people, we're basically, bowing down to all these other gods, but we're not bowing down to our own power, because so-called white people have a, so-called white God, the so-called white Messiah, the Elamites, basically the coolies, they have Krishna, they have a God that looks like them. Same for these Asian countries, they have gods that look like them. But what do the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans serve? They serve basically the gods of these heathen nations, but they're not serving their own power, whose name is Yahawah, Bahasham Yahawashi. But the Most High is waking us up to the fact that He, because Yahawah means He is, He exists, that He is our power, Yahawah, Bahasham Yahawashi, that He is our power. Verse 31, and shall know that I am the Lord Yahawah, their power, for I give them an heart and ears to hear, and they shall praise me in the land of their captivity, and think upon my name, which the name is very important. You need to have the name. And return from their stiff neck and from their wicked deeds, for they shall remember the way of their fathers, which sinned before the Lord Yahawah. And I will bring them into the land which I promised with an oath unto their fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, unto whom, the covenant was being made, with whom the covenant was being made, unto whom the oath and the promises were being made. And they shall be lords of it, and I will increase them, and they shall not be diminished. And I will make an everlasting covenant with them to be their power, and they shall be my people, and I will no more drive my people of Israel out of the land that I have given them. So, that's what the Most High is actually doing. He's bringing back the remembrance of who we are, and the Most High, the true power, the true and living power. His name is Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi. He's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which makes him the God, the power of the Israelites. So-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, but also those scattered among the heathen nations, who might look like the heathen nations, but his lineage does go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. There's one last scripture that I want to read, because there might be people, that look like the heathen nations, and you might understand this truth. This might be something that, just, clicks with you. You understand this. You understand what's going on. This is a scripture for you to basically realize, like, hey, I understand this truth. There's a reason I understand this truth. Because Daniel chapter 12 verse 10 says, many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. So those people that the Most High wants to understand this truth shall understand this truth. Lord willing, that makes you part of the elect, makes you part of those people that the Most High is going to save. It's gonna keep you from the destruction that's coming upon the earth. We're just quickly approaching. If we look at the signs, the times, we can see that the times are being hastened. The Most High is hastening the times. Prophecies are unfolding as we speak. So with that, I hope this lesson was edifying, and I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Qadash. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, who teach and rule well, and shalom to the sincere Akim, spreading truth and sincerity. Shalom.